A sweeping police crackdown on organized crime in Quebec has led to more than 30 arrests in the last week, and more are expected. Authorities say it's a blow to the Blood Family Mafia, a street gang believed to be behind a string of violent kidnappings.
Imagine a 28-year-old outlaw so feared that even the notorious Hells Angels walk past carefully. Meet Dave Turmel, the leader of the Blood Family Mafia, BFM, a gang that has shaken the foundations of organized crime in Quebec. Turmel's daring disobedience against the Hells Angels has ignited a brutal domain war, marking him as Canada's most wanted man. From troubled kid to crime boss, Dave Turmel, also called Pick, was born in 1996 in Lévis, Quebec. He had a tough childhood and started getting into trouble at a young age. When he was 18, he got into a fight at a bar and stabbed 2 people, which sent him to prison for 3 years. While in jail, he made a weapon out of scrap metal, earning the nickname Pick, short for Ice Pick. After leaving prison, Turmel didn't turn his life around. Instead, he climbed the ladder of the crime world fast. He became the leader of the Blood Family Mafia, BFM, a gang known for its violence and bold moves against powerful groups like the Hells Angels. Who is Dave Turmel? Dave Turmel is a 28-year-old crime boss from Quebec. Leading the Blood Family Mafia, Turmel has become infamous for his violent tactics and refusal to bow to the Hells Angels' dominance. His gang's methods, inspired by Central American cartels, include extreme violence and bullying, setting them apart in Canada's criminal landscape.
Now, police are hesitant to talk about the Blood Family Mafia specifically, but at a press conference at provincial police headquarters this morning, they did make it clear why they deployed hundreds of officers in recent days and raided 40 different locations.
The spark that ignited the war. Dave Turmel's war against the Hells Angels didn't begin overnight. In early 2023, he discovered a GPS tracker hidden under his car, which he believed was planted by the Hells Angels to track his every move. This was not just a scare tactic in Turmel's eyes, it was a declaration of war. Furious and unwilling to be threatened, Turmel decided to hit first. He launched a violent campaign that included shootings, arson attacks, and bold public threats, sending a clear message that he wouldn't back down. What made this moment so explosive was that Turmel's gang, the BFM, had already been gaining power and territory. The GPS incident gave Turmel the excuse he needed to challenge the Hells Angels openly. His followers were ready too, tired of paying taxes to the Hells Angels and eager to fight back. Turmel also used social media and encrypted apps to taunt his rivals, making the rivalry even more public and heated. Experts say this open disobedience was rare in Quebec's underworld, where most gangs usually avoided direct battles with the Hells Angels. But Turmel's boldness shattered that rule, throwing the criminal scene into chaos.
Maria Morani says the conflict is over the 10% cut drug traffickers normally pay to the Hells Angels to sell in Quebec City. Turmel's BFM has for months refused and fought back.
The war escalates. Turmel's resistance only grew stronger after his initial attacks. He began targeting key locations tied to the Hells Angels, especially in the Côte-Nord region of Quebec, a longtime stronghold of their empire. His gang's attacks on biker clubhouses, drug dens, and properties connected to the Hells Angels showed they were serious about breaking their grip on the drug trade. These weren't small hits. Some involved firebombings that made headlines across Canada. As the violence spread, innocent observers and local businesses started to feel the impact, with many fearing for their safety. Police noted that the BFM's level of aggression was unlike anything seen in recent years, and it pushed law enforcement into high alert. What's more shocking is that Turmel seemed to enjoy the media attention, seeing it as proof that his gang was making a name for itself. The BFM's rise was no longer just a local problem, it was becoming a national security concern.
Morani says the BFM is borrowing tactics from drug cartels and street gangs in Central America. Turmel and his gang are trying to scare people from fighting against them and to scare people away from working with the Hells.
The Hells Angels' response. At first, the Hells Angels seemed to downplay Turmel's bold attacks. They didn't rush to retaliate, perhaps thinking the Blood Family Mafia would burn out quickly or lose nerve. But as BFM's violent acts kept growing and their power started to spread, the Hells Angels realized they couldn't ignore the threat any longer. They organized baseball teams, a term used for enforcer crews that handle problems through fear and muscle, to regain control and push back against Turmel's uprising. These teams began patrolling key areas and sent strong warnings to anyone even thinking of siding with BFM. Behind the scenes, the Hells Angels also leaned on their deep network of informants and allies, trying to gather intelligence on Turmel's next moves. Their usual strategy of scaring smaller gangs into obedience, however, wasn't working this time. Turmel's gang kept hitting back, making it clear that they wouldn't be bullied into silence. This ongoing resistance frustrated the Hells Angels, forcing them into a conflict far bigger and messier than they had expected.
According to sources, the BFM gang is led by Dave Turmel. He's gone after the Hells after refusing to pay a 10% tax on drug sales in Hells-controlled territory.
Failed peace talks. As violence between the two gangs reached a boiling point, there were brief moments when both sides seemed open to negotiation. In early 2024, sources say secret meetings were arranged through middlemen in an attempt to cool tensions. The goal was simple: stop the bloodshed and divide territories more peacefully. But these talks didn't last long. Turmel's demands were seen as too aggressive, and the Hells Angels were not willing to give up any of their control. Some insiders believe that deep mistrust between the two groups made peace impossible from the start. Others say Turmel used the talks as a tactic to buy time and plan his next moves. Whatever the reason, once negotiations fell apart, the violence only got worse. Police also admitted that the failure of peace talks broke their hopes for a quick resolution, and meant even more resources had to be poured into monitoring both gangs closely. Law enforcement's crackdown. The increasing bloodshed and public fear finally pushed law enforcement into action. In 2024, Quebec's provincial police launched several major operations aimed at taking down both the Blood Family Mafia and the Hells Angels. Dozens of arrests were made, and large quantities of weapons, drugs, and cash were seized. Police also boosted up surveillance, tapping phones and using undercover officers to infiltrate both gangs. Their goal was clear: break the cycle of violence and restore order to the streets. These crackdowns weren't just about arrests. They also sent a strong message to other gangs watching from the sidelines. Despite the heavy police pressure, though, Turmel's crew showed resilience, with new members stepping up to fill the gaps left by arrested leaders. Experts say this highlighted how deep and organized the criminal networks had become. Meanwhile, community leaders praised law enforcement, but admitted that the fight was far from over, as both gangs still had loyal followers and plenty of resources.
That is Quebec City Police Sunday morning confirming the criminal organization thereafter and the identity of the man running it. The Blood Family Mafia, police say, is led by Dave Turmel.
The psychology of Turmel. Dave Turmel wasn't just a gang leader. He was a master strategist who deeply understood fear and loyalty. Many who knew him described him as intensely focused, always calculating his next move several steps ahead. He had a magnetic personality that made his followers feel unbeatable. Yet he demanded absolute loyalty and punished betrayal harshly. Experts believe his childhood hardships and early exposure to crime shaped his tough, no-nonsense mindset. What set Turmel apart from other gang leaders was his ability to mix charm with cruelty. He could negotiate deals smoothly, one moment, and order violent attacks the next without hesitation. Psychologists who studied his behavior suggested he had traits linked to high-functioning sociopaths, skilled at manipulation, but emotionally detached from the pain he caused. His fearless reputation wasn't just for show. It fueled his rise and kept his enemies constantly on edge. Even law enforcement admitted that understanding Turmel's thinking was key to predicting the gang's next steps.
On the streets of Quebec, police are targeting the BFM. The reason? The gang's war with the Hells Angels is boiling over.
Quebec's underworld and what's next. The ongoing war between the Blood Family Mafia and the Hells Angels has left deep scars on Quebec's criminal landscape. With both gangs constantly clashing for dominance, smaller groups have been caught in the crossfire, and even innocent civilians have felt the domino effects. The conflict has created a sense of instability, with many wondering whether anyone will be able to restore balance in Quebec's underworld. Some experts believe that the violence will eventually burn out as both gangs weaken each other, but others argue that new criminal groups will rise to fill the gap. As for the future, law enforcement remains alert, but the situation is far from resolved. The battle for control of Quebec's streets may continue for years to come, keeping the region's underworld in a constant state of change. Dave Turmel's fearless challenge to the Hells Angels has reshaped the landscape of organized crime in Canada. His actions have inspired a new wave of disobedience against established criminal hierarchies. As law enforcement intensifies its hunt, the outcome of this conflict remains uncertain, but its impact is undeniable. If you found this deep dive into the world of organized crime fascinating, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more true crime stories and in-depth investigations. What are your thoughts on the ongoing conflict? Do you think law enforcement will ever truly bring peace to Quebec's streets? Share your opinions in the comments below, and let's continue the conversation. Stay tuned for the next video, where we dive into the latest developments in organized crime around the world. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring the dark corners of the world.